This week, more dirty cows. Apache struts a couple of new vulnerabilities. Remember to reboot. Pranks, hacking people out of jail, MailSploits, and we could be under attack from an IoT device botnet any day now. Jason Wood of Paladin Security joins us to talk about federal data breach legislation. All that and more on this episode of Hack Naked News. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News.
Most of the organizations I work with, they have
released. Yes, you read it.
Actually do
Encryption key to the original Linux kernel security with Linux kit.
So I hope everybody has their resistance built up.
Brought to you by. Make sure your team is prepared to fight off the latest cybersecurity threat. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team skills up to date. You can stream IT Pro TV's courses live and on demand worldwide, so there's no need to send staff to off-site training. Their team solution provides access to a supervisor portal for full control over your team's training schedule and group analytics. Go to itpro.tv/hacknaked and use the code HN30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Welcome, everyone, to Hack Naked News. This is episode 152 for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. If you listen to this show, where we talk about different technologies as they are in the news, and you're like, I have no idea what that is or what Paul is talking about, you should do two things. Go subscribe to Secure Digital Life. You can get there by going to securityweekly.com/subscribe. That's our show with Dr. Doug White and Russell Bachman about the foundations and fundamentals of security. Then you should go to itpro.tv/hacknaked, use the discount code HN30, try it free for 7 days, and tell your employer to sign up for a supervisor portal so that all of your coworkers can have access to training on demand all the time. It's going to be awesome. You should go do that right now. Well, after you watch the show, because I have a lot of cool things to talk about, including our on-demand webcast series. If you've heard us talk about our webcasts, such as the one coming up with Chris Martin from Logarithm, where you'll hear about their solutions and the problems they're solving in the market with me as your host to guide the conversation, and we'll take questions from the audience. But if you hear us talk about all these webcasts, such as the other one that we have on Thursday with Pony Express, you may have said, well, I missed it. Where did it go? Now, select webcasts that we've done previously and an entirely new series we're doing in 2018 are available on demand. You can register for them at any time by going to securityweekly.com/on-demand. You can register and watch the webcast. Send us questions as we will take your feedback as well. So securityweekly.com/on-demand. Tune in. We're going to be diving into topics such as penetration testing, security training and education, and more in our on-demand webcast series. And now, the security news. A flaw is found in the Dirty Cow patch. I know you may have heard of Dirty Cow before, but a flaw in the original patch for the notorious Dirty Cow vulnerability could allow an adversary to run local code on affected systems and exploit a race condition to perform privilege escalation attacks. A little refresher, the Dirty Cow vulnerability allows an attacker to elevate privileges by taking advantage of a race condition and gain write access to read-only memory. The flaw is patched. The flawed patch, I should say, is not required for Android, but several other Linux distributions. The Apache Software Foundation was in the sights of the U.S. CERT, who's reporting that the Apache Foundation has released security updates to address vulnerabilities in Apache struts versions 2.5 to 2.5.14. They claim a remote attacker could exploit one of these vulnerabilities to take control of an affected system. CVE 2017-7525 has been assigned and states a deserialization flaw was discovered in the Jackson data bind, which could allow an unauthenticated user to perform code execution by sending maliciously crafted input to the read value method of the object mapper. I could find no other technical details on this vulnerability other than it sounds like obviously a deserialization bug in Apache struts. There's this really weird GitHub kind of exchange where none of the details are posted, but just people's comments are. It's good for entertainment value. You can find the link to all of that in our show notes at wiki.securityweekly.com, of course. Are you ready? Get ready, because there are more hacks in 2018. CNET is reporting that we should get ready for more hacking in 2018, with experts saying patch your phone, patch your Mac, and patch your Windows machine. Wow, and I thought we would be 100% safe in 2018 and not have to worry about anything like patching. Damn it. It looks like we'll still be reporting on all of the hackery here at Security Weekly in 2018 and beyond. Thank you, CNET, for those wonderful insights. And I hate to poke fun at CNET, but this is the time of year when all of these wonderful prediction reports come out that say, oh my God, there's going to be hacks in 2018. Yes, we know that. Thanks for telling us. Apple Mac security issue may reoccur. Wired magazine has found that a bug returns if the Mac owners upgrade to the latest version of High Sierra after applying the patch. Now, if you read this article, it basically states that if you are running a version previous to High Sierra, you install the patch for that root vulnerability thing we talked about, then you upgrade to High Sierra, and you don't perform an additional reboot, you're still vulnerable. So you have to reboot again. Not a huge deal. Reboot again. I think this is really one of the most overhyped bugs of the year, in my opinion. A hacker, as it's termed in the headlines, has flooded a tourism agency's Facebook page with bizarre posts. I think this is more appropriately termed a prank, and I think it's really funny. Early in the morning on December 4th, the Facebook page for Explore Minnesota Tourism began publishing some unusual content. The stories consisted of fake news items with headlines such as, Detroit woman gives birth to her 14th child from 14 different fathers, and woman arrested for training squirrels to attack her ex-boyfriend. While funny, the attacker could face charges, and I just thought that was a pretty interesting use of probably hijacking someone's Facebook credentials. Anyway, how a hack almost sprung a prisoner out of jail. After a targeted phishing attack and installing malware on all of the prison's systems, reportedly over 1,600 systems were infected by Conrad Voits from Ann Arbor, Michigan, attempted the following with this access. With the Trojan credentials to the prison management system in his hands, Voits attempted to change the records of one prisoner to arrange their early release. He was, of course, discovered, tried and convicted, and Voits is still awaiting sentencing and ironically faces up to 10 years in prison where he may be joining his friend rather than springing him free. MailSploit email spoofing flaw affects over 30 popular email clients. A security researcher has discovered a collection of vulnerabilities in more than 30 popular email client applications, which could allow anyone to send spoofed emails bypassing anti-spoofing mechanisms. Discovered by security researcher Sabri Hadoush, the set of vulnerabilities dubbed MailSploit affects Apple Mail, macOS, iOS, and watchOS, Mozilla Thunderbird, several Microsoft email clients, Yahoo Mail, Proton Mail, and many others. There is a link in the article for a complete list of vulnerable and not vulnerable email clients. I do note that the Opera, I believe, mail client has seen this vulnerability and opted not to fix it. So if you're using the Opera mail client, you might want to find one of the other 29 or more new ones that are on that list. One of my mail clients is on the list and is currently I'm told they're addressing the vulnerability. Hopefully we get a patch soon. A 100,000 strong botnet built on a router 0-day could strike at any time. Attackers have used an advanced new strain of the Mirai Internet of Things malware to quietly amass an army of 100,000 home routers that could be used at any moment. Okay, not that moment, but any moment to wage internet paralyzing attacks, a researcher warned Monday. Look, this is always a threat, and while the new botnet does pick on a vulnerability in Huawei routers that looks like it was discovered by Checkpoint, this is always going to be a threat. Well, at least until we fix it. And, well, it doesn't look like we're going to fix it anytime soon, as we've reported this year on the show. We're going to come back and talk to Jason Wood from Paladin Security about some fun topics. So before we do that, we're going to take a short commercial break. So stay tuned. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Welcome back, everyone. We're here at Hack Naked News with a quick announcement. Here from Larry Pesci and Paul Asadorian. Oh, wait, that's me. A resident wireless security enthusiast about the current attack landscape for wireless devices. Listen, Pony Express has given us a Pwn Pulse to put here in the studio. And in a call today, they basically told us all the things that we've been doing wrong with our wireless and basically security in general. And it's a little embarrassing because they're like, yeah, there's that device over there. I'm like, I don't know what that device is. Oh, they're like, wait, no, I put it there to test the Pwn Pulse thing. That's what that device is. And then I'm like Kyle, what's that device? So it's going to be fun. SecurityWeekly.com/pony. Make sure you register for that as it's happening on Thursday. Larry, Don Calloway, myself, and Paul Padgett will all be in studio. Maybe not in this set, but in studio for this webcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jason Wood from Paladin Security, who's not wearing a Patriots jersey, has joined us. It's funny, I almost wore my Patriots jersey. We have to coordinate on this, Jason. So
I will confess to looking at last week's episode and seeing your Patriots jersey. I'm like, screw that. I'm grabbing my Packers jersey.
Well, there you go.
So showing my support for my struggling but still on their feet Packers.
It's cool. You know, I mean, they're not the Giants or anything, so at least you don't have a Giants jersey on. Then we'd have to like blur it out on screen or something.
I don't want to have that happen, so I'll stick with the Packers.
Not that the Giants pose much of a threat this year. Anyway. Oh, was that? Anyway, what's going on, Jason?
Well, quite a bit's actually happening on Capitol Hill is what we're going to talk about today. Back last Thursday on November 30th, there was a fair bit of activity about legislation being pushed for and reproposed in Congress relating to data breaches and preventing them and stuff like that. So one of the things that to start off with was a hearing from the Energy and Communications Committee of the House called Identity Verification in a Post-Breach World. Sounds kind of apocalyptic. And the witnesses there were Troy Hunt, who we may know of as an author and instructor of security, Jeremy Grant, managing director of Venable, and Ed Mierzwinski, who is the Consumer Program Director of USPRG, which I looked up and found out is basically a non-government, nonprofit organization that comments on different issues out there. So what was this hearing about? Really, the idea, the push of this hearing, it appears to be, is that, hey, we have a problem with authentication and username and passwords. Go figure. Passwords get stolen, and then we have odd news articles posted on our Facebook pages about things like
training squirrels to attack
child with 14. Yeah, the squirrels. Yeah,
I like the squirrels. Training a squirrel. I don't know if it's your squirrel or if it's a squirrel, but anyway, to attack your ex-boyfriend, I think is pretty good.
And there are a lot of squirrels up that way, so that could be a real threat.
Could be.
But Troy Troy Hunt made the comment, some comments around the number of breaches and I thought this was interesting. The number of breaches that have occurred where passwords have been compromised and data has been compromised about us as individuals, consumers, that makes it really difficult now if an attacker had access to all of that compromised data about us. Things that we thought were private aren't going to be private now. As a result, using username and passwords and the common secret questions and questions and answers aren't going to be very effective because this information has been compromised over and over, and attackers could just mine that to compromise our accounts. And I thought that was kind of an interesting idea, that there is a fair bit of data out there that's been compromised that potentially somebody would have access to, but they would have to gather all that up. So it may be something that would only specific groups would be able to pull off. But still, it was an interesting thought. Jeremy Grant called for legislation to put restrictions on how SSNs can be used, which I thought was like a little late by that by several decades, to be honest with you, to put that legislation in. One of the things I also thought was interesting is Ed Mierzwinski called for the idea of requiring legislation to make it easier for consumers to protect themselves with things like credit freezes or doing additional monitoring of the practices of the credit bureaus. He mentioned that there was unnamed in the articles I read pushes by business lobbyists to create laws to prohibit consumers from being able to ever sue an organization if their information was compromised in a data breach. And also the idea that even if you were allowed to sue, you would have to prove that you had some kind of real harm inflicted on you. So it's not enough to say, hey, my information was compromised. Now you have to show and prove that, and here's where I lost money due to that, or something bad happened. Definitely raising the level of difficulty for consumers to respond to some of the breaches that are out there if those bills were pushed through by business. At the same time, Senator Bill Nelson of Florida reintroduced legislation from 2015 that would make it a criminal offense, punishable by up to 5 years in jail, if a company was to hide the fact that they had a data breach from the public and not do notification. Which I thought, it sounded like it was kind of in response to what occurred with Uber. The news that's been around that. He's re-pushing this bill out there again. It was voted down a couple of years ago due to some issues that folks had with concerns about privacy and regulations. One of the other members of Congress did raise the issue that, we've got a number of different state laws that require notification for data breaches, and this bill proposed by Senator Nelson in its current form would actually would preempt those state laws and lower make the protections lower for the consumers. Basically, there would be less triggers that would require a notification. So that was a concern with it. Maybe that'll get changed this time around as people talk about it. It's not up for a vote or anything like that. It is an interesting idea, though, that, okay, you guys are holding on to information. Now we're going to hold your feet to the fire. You're going to look at jail if you conceal the fact that you were compromised and consumer information was breached. How the heck do you enforce that? Improve it? I'm not sure how that would work.
Because someone it has to come out eventually. And Yahoo, of course, is probably one of the biggest ones that came out that they, had a breach and never really publicly disclosed it. Of course, you could always claim, well, we didn't know about it until now. What would that investigation look like? It would be awkward. I think there should be, personally, I do think there should be laws that require the organization to notify people that they've been breached. I think out of all the things that you said were being proposed, that's the one that I can really kind of get behind. Of course, enforcement is hard.
Exactly. But I do like the idea of having, I'm not usually a huge fan of things coming out at the federal level, to address issues when they could potentially be addressed at a lower level of government. But this is something that I think could be useful. One standard for notification and requirements around that. I mean, one of the things you get into is working in information security at an organization is we had an event. Which laws do we have to respond to? And what are I mean, there's only 50 some odd different laws on the books. Good luck. So you definitely be talking with your lawyer. So the idea of simplifying that is very appealing to me. But yeah, problematic around the enforcement. How did they really know that, how do you prove that somebody went out and tried to suppress something? Obviously, if you get emails, that's a smoking gun maybe. But still, there's a lot of things being pushed around. One of the things that came out of the hearing with the Energy Communications Committee was the idea of inventing a new way of performing authentication. No idea what that would be. Maybe we have some requirements around multi-factor authentication, but how do you push that out there? How do you force that out? It seems to be a nightmare. But
yeah, and that doesn't stop people's data from being stolen either.
No,
it can certainly hinder what they can do with credentials, but the most damaging part of a data breach is not so much your credentials, which can be easily changed. It's that information about you that can't be changed, like your social security number.
Right. And, so there's a lot of, there's people looking at it. I guess the point of this is there's a lot of people there. Again, there's people looking at this at the federal level. And, as information security professionals, we need to be aware. We need to respond and make our voices heard, I think, on some of the ideas that are being pushed out there. Some things I think are being trotted out just to say that we have an idea of something to do rather than anything that's going to be effective. Is anything going to come out of these bills, this particular bill that's been proposed by Senator Nelson? Maybe, maybe not. I'm a little bit cynical maybe about, the Congress and their ability to get anything done. But, perhaps it's time to start looking at this from the federal level, putting in some requirements around these things. But it would be a real sticky a sticky bit of legislation to create and enforce. And I think that's where it's important for us to get involved and make sure our voices are heard in that process so that, things are being effective and not just having business lobbies dictate or water down this legislation to protect them rather than the consumers.
Awesome. Jason Wood from Paladin Security, thank you so much for your expert commentary today. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching to this edition of Hack Naked News.